All right, let's dive into this incredible true story right from the pages of San Francisco history. Seriously, it's a tale of love, betrayal, and courtroom drama that feels like it was ripped straight out of a Hollywood script.
So picture this. It's a Sunday morning in a city that's just buzzing with life. But on one quiet street, a very private drama is about to explode into a very public spectacle. And our story really kicks off not with a quiet argument, but with the loud crack of a pistol. It was an act of pure desperation that would end up echoing through the city's courtrooms for years to come.
And the newspapers at the time, they didn't just call this a simple crime of passion. No, they described it as a direct response to a calculated, deliberate act of cruelty, a husband flaunting his affair literally right in front of his wife's home.
And those two shots, they turned out to be fatal. So what started as an act of public humiliation ended in death. And for the woman who pulled the trigger, it ended with a charge of murder.
So, who were the main players at the heart of this tragedy? Well, let me tell you, this story has a full cast of characters.
Okay, so on one side, you've got Zarifa Falling, the wife, who's described as this small, unassuming woman. And on the other, there's her husband Charles, who the papers called a recreant, basically an unfaithful man, and his companion, Ida Carroll. But believe me, this was so much more than a simple love triangle. This was about a public humiliation that had been building and building for a long, long time.
And I really want to stress this. This wasn't some sudden snap. The historical sources detail years of neglect and very public infidelity. Charles Failing wasn't just having an affair, he was actively tormenting his wife. And that Sunday morning buggy ride, that was the final calculated insult.
And just when you think the story can't get any wilder, it does. The drama didn't end with the shooting. Oh no. A year later, Ida Carroll, the woman in the buggy who was grazed by the second bullet, sued Zarifa Failing for a staggering $15,000 in damages. That's an absolute fortune back then. The legal battles were really only just getting started.
So let's recap. Her husband is dead, his mistress is suing her for a ton of money, and now Zarifa Failing's entire fate rests in the hands of the American legal system.
Now her lawyers, they weren't about to argue that she didn't pull the trigger. Instead, their whole case was built on the idea that she had been driven to desperation, that she was, in that moment, emotionally insane from the constant cruelty and faithlessness of her husband.
But the path to any kind of verdict was just an incredibly slow crawl. I mean, it took over 5 long months just to get through the first trial. Can you even imagine the uncertainty she was living with every single day? And after all that waiting, what happens? The jury is completely deadlocked. They debated her fate back and forth for 55 agonizing hours and still couldn't come to a unanimous decision. And look how incredibly close she came to being convicted. 7 jurors voted to find her guilty, while only 5 voted to acquit. Just 2 votes away. So a mistrial was declared, and poor Zarifa was sent right back into legal limbo. You can just feel the sheer weight of this whole ordeal in the descriptions from the time. The physical and emotional toll was just immense. They said she was literally wasting away under the pressure of it all.
So because of that hung jury, the entire process had to start all over again. It's now 1890, 2 years after the shooting, and Zarifa Failing is back in court, facing a new judge and a brand new jury for a second, final trial.
But this time was different. After a week-long trial, the jury goes out to deliberate, and they come back in just 10 minutes. 10 minutes to decide a woman's entire life.
The speed of it was absolutely stunning. And the verdict? It sent a shockwave through the courtroom. After 2 years of absolute hell, Zarifa Failing was a free woman. But believe me, the drama was not over.
Because what happened next was pure pandemonium. Zarifa's young daughter, who was sitting right beside her, heard the verdict, but she thought they said guilty. She just leaped up, clinging to her mother, convinced she was about to be taken away forever.
I mean, it was just this scene of unbelievable emotion. The little girl faints from the shock. Then Zarifa, seeing her daughter on the floor, screams, "My child, she is dead," and collapses herself. The newspaper said even the jurymen were moved to tears. You simply cannot write a more dramatic end to such a heart-wrenching trial.
Okay, so let's take a breath. The huge question here is, why was she acquitted, especially so quickly the second time around? To really understand that, we kind of have to zoom out and look at the bigger picture of the time.
So legal scholars have this term for cases like this,
confrontational killings. Now, by the strict letter of the law, it wasn't self-defense. But juries back then could be deeply, deeply sympathetic to women who fought back after years of abuse. They sometimes saw it as a form of, well, justifiable homicide.
But, and this is a really big but, Zarifa's acquittal was far from a guaranteed outcome. In fact, many other women in very similar situations faced a much, much harsher fate.
Yeah, justice was anything but blind. A woman's race, her marital status, and just public perception played this massive role. Take the case of Faye Alma Smith. She was a black woman, she wasn't married to a partner, and the court basically just wrote her off as a jealous woman, not a victim. She was convicted. So that jury's empathy, it seems it wasn't extended to everyone.
And it's a question that really sticks with you, doesn't it? Her story forces us to wonder, was her acquittal just a rare moment of empathy from 12 men in a box? Or was it a reflection of a society that understood a woman could be pushed to her absolute breaking point? It really makes you think about the complex and often unequal nature of justice, both back then and right now.